Welcome to this week's Fireside Chat with Jesse. I am joined today by James Cress, Vice President and General Manager of Stryker Flex Financial. Thanks for joining me, James.
Hey, thanks. Glad to be here.
No, it's great to see you here. And I think outside of the occasional bump in at a conference, I think this is probably our first Zoom. So let's see how we manage through this process today.
Sounds good.
For those people who might not be familiar with yourself, James, do you mind just kind of giving an intro and your career to date in equipment finance?
Yeah, so James Cress, I'm the Vice President and General Manager of Stryker Flex Financial. Stryker is a global med device manufacturing company specializing in orthopedics and neurotechnology. And Flex Financial is the captive finance organization that supports the manufacturer. So been here almost 15 years. And before that, I got started in leasing with National City Commercial Capital around the year 2000. So worked with Bob Rinaldi and Mike Rooney and the other founders of that company there. And and like most people, I worked in commercial banking prior to that before moving over into the leasing area of the bank.
So what was it like working for those personalities 22 years ago? If you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, well, like you said it, those personalities. I mean, no, they're great. They're mentors to me. They taught me the business, and no, it was a lot of fun, and really a lot of the things that I do today at Flex, I kind of model after what I learned working for them. But and Bob particularly, was very active in the ELFA, and got me involved in the ELFA and sort of sponsored me and pushed me a little bit to do some things and be more of a participant. But no, they're great coaches, and learned so much from them, and always had a lot of fun working at that organization.
Yeah, I think what was it? NC4? Was that what it was? NC4?
That's right. That's right.
I want to say they were my 10th customer that I had sold to in equipment finance, but obviously that was just before I think the PNC acquisition.
Right. So so I joined them originally. It was still ILC, Information Leasing Company, and then they were acquired by a bank, Provident Bank, which was like a local regional bank in Cincinnati, and then Provident was eventually acquired by PNC, and so. Yeah, National City Commercial Capital was a mouthful, so I think Bobby came up with NC4. So,
and then coming from the East Coast at the time, visiting that office, there was a Big Boy like right down the street, and I just thought Big Boy was. I didn't realize it was real. I just thought it was on Austin Powers. So it's like there's a Big Boy.
Yeah, right there. So it was great working in that facility downtown, and just watching the growth of the business over the years. But I worked there from I started the year 2000, and that's, like I said, that's how I got into equipment leasing, and I was with them until 2008 when I left to start the captive here at Stryker.
Well, we'll get into that whole going from that to a captive here in a second, but if you don't mind, we just kind of introduce Stryker Flex Financial.
Yeah, so like I said, Stryker is a global medical device company, specializing in orthopedics and in neurotechnology. And so when you look at company revenues, it's about 50-50 capital and on one side and implants and consumables on the other. And so Flex Financial was set up to provide equipment finance solutions to our customers on the capital side of the business. And like I said, we started that around 2008 and had a lot of fun growing that business. And, currently we're active not just in the US, but also in Canada and 14 countries or so over in Western Europe.
And how many employees do you have?
Just under 100, across that global piece for the Flex Financial Group.
And then from a headquarters perspective, where are you guys out of?
Yep. So we're based in Kalamazoo, Michigan. So in the southwest corner of Michigan, they sell T-shirts at the airport. Says yes, there really is a Kalamazoo, and so, but yeah, so Southwest Michigan.
And then, do you have brick and mortar locations throughout the U.S. or just remote people?
Yeah, so we have our basic operations are here in
Yeah.
Kalamazoo for
Okay.
the finance company, and then we have field-based employees on the sales side. We have a sales force of about a dozen people in the U.S. I would tell you what's interesting is, since COVID, we've gotten much more flexible in that structure, and we've been hiring more full-time remote employees, and so that's kind of allowed us to recruit the whole U.S. instead of just Kalamazoo, and so we are seeing a shift. We've almost a third of our operations team now is full-time remote outside of Kalamazoo, sprinkled across the country. And so something we're adapting to, but having a lot of success with as well.
Well, that was going to be my follow-up question to that. From a culture perspective, if you've been there for almost 15 years, there's obviously a culture within the Kalamazoo office. How does that relate to those new remote employees, or how do you try to bring them in to that?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think, our culture, within Stryker and especially within Flex is something we're really, really proud of. And, it was a concern, right? The things that made, we wanted to be a destination within Stryker in terms of where people wanted to work. And we talk about our Flex family. It's very people-centric, family type of culture. But being virtual and not seeing everybody every day, and not having those type of interactions that we were used to, I think there's a longing to try and recreate that now. People are coming back to the office, but not as often. Like I said, we have people that are full-time remote that normally would have been based here in Kalamazoo, and so I think we've kind of shifted from how do we get back to that feeling we had before to how do we support that and how do we maintain that in this new more flexible, more virtual world. And so really just kind of leaning on people who've managed virtual teams before, and making sure that we find the money to let people travel to Kalamazoo. And we just had a mid-year meeting where we had every Flex employee here a few weeks ago, and really just kind of reinforcing what our mission is, around making healthcare better as an organization, and just making time for relationships that are going to carry us in that virtual environment.
Yeah, that's an interesting. So I've been on the business development side basically my entire career in equipment finance, James. And it's like you look at like a marketing budget, right, which pretty much encompasses travel and all that. And when you think about something you just said, where it's like make sure that you have the monies available to bring people in a couple times a year, and how do you put that aside where it's not touched at all? Like, because on the sales and marketing side, you can trim, especially each quarter to meet certain numbers. But that's an interesting. I haven't heard that yet, but it's a great idea.
Well, and one of the things that drives me crazy a little bit is I hear people say, well, I want to stay virtual. I'm more productive when I'm not coming into the office. And I understand what they mean by that, by not having the interruptions, being able to focus on work, being able to work during the time they normally would commute. But at the same time, I mean, there's so much productivity and just, building relationships and making connections with people, and, reinforcing the culture of the organization. And like I said, we had that mid-year meeting, and I can just tell you, everybody left with like fresh wind, fresh fire, and momentum that's really going to carry us here in the second half. And so, as we think about, our ability to recruit talent, in a broader geographic area, and as there's just not enough talent to go around these days. I mean,
Right.
the labor market's so tight. We'll continue to get the best people, but we're going to be intentional about creating opportunities for those people to see each other in person, and continue to double down on relationships, and building that time together.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. I mean, for the more senior people, they can just kind of be left alone to an extent. But for the younger people, it's those water cooler, not to be cliche, those conversations, or they can watch how somebody else does that. How do you do that like this?
Yeah, well, and it's hard, right? And like, we've had that conversation with folks that choose to be full-time remote, that because they've expressed that concern, right? Like if I'm not there and five other people are, they're going to get more exposure to leadership. They're going to have that time to build relationships, and will I get left behind? And that might be one of the trade-offs of being full-time remote.
Yeah.
But we really talked to them about, like, hey, it's your job to create that presence in the office, even if you're remote. And we've got people here that are very intentional about doing that, even though they live in outside of the Kalamazoo area, and we have them like coach and mentor newer people. But there's ways that you have to insert yourself and create that presence. And just because they're full-time remote doesn't mean they can't come to the office once in a while and plug in. And so again, we're trying to create those opportunities through like quarterly meetings and get-togethers, so that people can spend that time together. But yeah, it's like we haven't figured it out completely yet. It's hard, but I think we're embracing the fact that there is a new reality here post-COVID, that every company is going to have to adapt to, and we're trying to throw a lot of energy into doing that in an inclusive way with our people, and letting them have a voice in that direction versus just mandating to them how we're going to do it going forward. And so far so good, but we're going to keep learning and adapting as we go.
Well, I mean, kudos to you as a leader for following that, methodology, because I know there's some people out there that I always thought the pendulum would swing this way, then we'd settle in the middle. But it's almost like I'm hearing where it's going back. And it's like, come on, because if you're not going to offer or foster that environment, somebody else will. And then, like you said, good resources are hard to find.
Yeah. And I think it's hard, right? I think if you're going to mandate people come back into the office, you got to explain to them why, right? And when we look at our business, we've been virtually, remote, for almost 2 years now. And, from a business results perspective, we continue to grow the business, above our budget, faster than most of our competitors. And, our people are doing a good job. And so, what are we solving for exactly by forcing them to come back to the office? And so, unless you got a really good answer to that question, I think it's hard to do. And a lot of people say it's culture, right? And but we participate in the Gallup surveys, we do our Q12s, and our engagement's high with our employees. We feel the culture is still strong, and there's just different ways to maintain that in this new flexible, more virtual world. And so like I said, we're learning as we go here, but until we can answer that question of why we have to all be back in the office, and answer it, with a straight face, I think, we're going to continue to work with our team to maintain that virtual world.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. As opposed to it's because I said so. That's why you need to be.
Right.
So going from an equipment finance organization after you left commercial banking, you were in there for 8 years, right? Almost. What was that like going to a captive where it's like, okay, I know NC4 was more of a generalist. What's it like when it's like, okay, I can only sell to healthcare companies? Like, I'm just more of a curiosity question.
Well, it was, so I joined Stryker in April of 2008. So that was another tumultuous time. And so, I felt good because, the bank was a hard place to be in 2008. So one of the few times in my life where the timing was good. But yeah, we made the move then. I think, I worked for bank-owned leasing companies. I worked for independents, and then I've worked for a captive. I've had great experiences at all those, and so. But what I enjoy about working at captive now, particularly, is, one, it's a relatively flat structure within the leasing company, and so we're able to be very responsive, very nimble, as it relates to our customer, in competitive environments. The other thing is, it's so entrepreneurial. Like, if we have a competitive challenge, and people say, why can't we do this? I mean, we really ask ourselves, why can't we do that? And so I like to really think about, our place is a place to be innovative and think about new ways to respond to customers. Think about different ways that we can help our customers as they think about how they consume capital from the business. But it's just very entrepreneurial. It's very flat and nimble, and yeah, and we just have a lot of fun. We got so many levers, I think, as a captive that we can pull to put programs together for our customers that you might not have at some of those other types of lending institutions. And so for me, it's just that, the ability to be innovative and creative is makes it fun coming to work every day.
Oh, that's perfect. I was just more of a, there's a part of me where it's like, God, it seems like it'd be so going from all this to this. But then again, it's like, if you want to specialize on this, you have to be that much more tactical in your approach. And like you said, so that makes
Well,
complete sense.
and for Stryker, our mission statement is together with our customers, we're driven to make healthcare better. And so, our customers really are, acute care hospitals, it's surgery centers, it's group practices. Um, but everything we're doing, there's a patient involved, right? And so, for us, it's very easy to rally around the mission of making healthcare better. And we share patient stories with our employees all the time. And so, it's not just about doing leasing, right? It's we're trying to help our team understand that they're enabling technology that improves people's lives. And so for us, it's very purpose driven. And then at the same time, you think about all the things going on in the economy, but with COVID, the healthcare industry has been disrupted quite a bit as well. And so, you talk about taking challenges and turning them into opportunities. The opportunity to serve our customer in this volatile environment right now has never been greater. And I think the captive shows up as sort of the problem solver in a lot of those challenges. And so we've been really busy. Business has been hard over the last couple of years, but it's been very rewarding in the sense that we've been able to really respond to our customers in that way.
No, and that's perfect. And as far as I guess while we're on that topic, like from a supply chain perspective, because obviously medical equipment, well, not obviously, some medical equipment has a useful life, right? And then it's no longer going to be able to, I mean, I guess it can have the same performance, but it's not accurate over a certain period of time. So from a supply chain perspective, how's that been treating you, and how are your
Um,
sales reps trying to get ahead of it?
yeah, it's been brutal. It's tough. It's hard. I
It's a
mean,
loaded question. I'm sorry.
yeah, it's well, I mean, I tell people, what's made the last year really difficult is, I said, like, if we just had supply chain challenges, that'd be one thing, right? Or if we just had a rapidly rising rate environment, that'd be one thing. And I think we could deal with those things, independently. The fact that those things are happening at the same time has been particularly hard because it puts us in a situation where um, when we're having trouble getting chips to be able to manufacture our equipment, and it creates that long back order. The customer signing the lease agreement, but not getting the equipment potentially for 6 or 9 months later, right? And then rates go up, so many bips. You know, Obviously, if you're a bank, it's easy to pass that on, but the customer saying, well, hey, we wanted the equipment 6 months ago, you couldn't supply it. So it just makes those conversations harder and makes the business clunkier. But that being said, we're not alone, right? Every one of our competitors has the exact same challenges that we have. This isn't unique to Stryker. And I believe we were very well positioned, within our markets prior to this. And I think we'll continue to be well positioned when we get through this. And so, yeah, it's been hard and difficult, but I think the takeaway is just that you've never had to be closer to your customer than you are right now. And so just staying close to your customer, talking with your customer, being very transparent, communicative with them about what's going on, and just trying to eliminate surprises. Um, you know, the better off you'll be. And so that's kind of the approach we've taken. It's just, trying to stay close to their projects, understanding what they're going through, being empathetic in that way, and trying to be problem solvers, but also sharing what our challenges are as well, And so,
No, and then that's a great point, because no one wants to, I mean, on the sales side especially, no one wants to deliver that news, right? It's like,
yeah,
what are you talking about?
yeah,
I'll deliver that when it happens. So it's, the just natural human emotion, right? But if you're over communicative with that and say, hey, just so I think that lessens the blow. And like you said, empathy goes a long way.
well, and I think, the more you kick the can down the road, the worse it's going to be when you eventually have to have that conversation. So,
Yeah,
do it now, right?
no, that's fair. That's fair. I'm gonna shift gears a little bit if you don't mind. So obviously I think our paths first crossed at an ELFA event.
Mhm.
My first ELFA event was in 2005, Hurricane Wilma. That's where I
Nice.
met Bob Rinaldi. So,
Yeah.
he's like, come on, kid, let's go around. But, that association has done so much for my career, James, and just wanted to kind of talk about your experience with the ELFA. I know you're on the board today. Just what's your experience and what the association kind of means to you?
Yeah, it's been great. And and I'll credit Bob with that. When I worked at National City, Bob really was the most involved with the OFA. And he invited me to, the first event that I went to. He sort of encouraged me to do more within the association. And so, just having him being sort of a sponsor and an advocate for me has really, really helped. But no, I started out, going to, I think Capital Connections might have been my first event as well. And I have a heart for that. I believe the advocacy work that the association does is, probably some of the most important work that they do. And so I've also been the chair of Lease Pack as well. And then, just kind of worked my way up through, the business steering committees, gone to a lot of conventions and I would just say, obviously, I think everybody will say the networking is phenomenal. I don't know where you can go meet, um, so many talented people and leaders, and just have that sort of access. And so, you talk about, the equipment leasing association is almost $1 trillion industry, which sounds huge, but the association really makes it small and provides opportunities for that. And what I would say, like a great example would be, I remember I went to, a convention and sat at a breakout session, and I heard someone speaking, and they said something profound, right? And I just started writing it down and kind of quoting that person several times in some presentations that I had done. But by going to the association, I eventually got to build a relationship with that person, and now they're one of my best friends in the industry, and another mentor to me that I really look up to. And so I think, you just don't get that on your own. And so I really enjoyed my time. The more I participate in the industry, the more I get out of it. So I just encourage anybody to do the same.
And then, so were you, so you said you were the lease pack chair, right?
I was,
And
yeah.
then you're on the board. Like, were you on anything before that? Because one of the things that when people watching these, it's like, well, I want to get involved. How do I get involved? And then what does that ascension look like potentially?
Yeah. So I was on the lease pack board. I started out, but I was on the captive and vendor business steering committee. And
Okay.
so I think, I was the lease pack representative from the captive vendor BC SC to lease pack. And that's how I got involved there. And then I've also, I joined the board, I think it was 2015 to 2018. During that time, I was on, when the Women's Council was being formed, I participated on that. And then, being back on the board now as the vice chair, on the board liaison for the ETAC committee. So working with them, and that's been a great experience as well. And so, but yeah, I think, there's always more opportunities than there are people to fill them. So, if you do want to get more involved, I'd say ask any board member or somebody on one of the business committees. They'd be happy to steer you in the right direction.
So James, I ask everyone who comes on here to give me a little fun fact about themselves, something they'd like to share with the audience. Just wanted to throw that
Yeah.
out there to you and see what you'd like to share.
Yeah, I think two things, for me this year. One, my youngest kid is going to be a senior in high school, so next year we're going to be empty nesters, and so my wife and I are currently building a house in Venice, Florida, and so we're going to relocate next year to Florida. So we're really excited about that. I have one more Michigan winter ahead of me, and then hopefully lake effect snow will be in my rear view mirror at that point. And then no, I think the other thing is, this year my wife and I discovered pickleball. So we took a pickleball lesson in March, and we've played quite a bit since then and made a ton of new friends. And so that's our new thing. We're avid pickleball players now. So
Yeah, that's massive here. I mean, there's a court that not too far away from me that opened up in Gilbert, and there's like 40 pickleball courts. And I'm like, what is pickleball? Like, you hear racquetball, you have tennis, maybe like a little hybrid. Like,
it's the fastest growing sport in America.
I can see that now.
Yeah. So we had no idea. They built some courts down the street from our house, and we said we'll go take a lesson just to know the rules and not embarrass ourselves too much. And we just started playing and just met other people that played and play all the time now, and it's great. We've had a lot of fun, and I'm just waiting for the next ELFA pickleball tournament to start at convention now.
Well,
ready.
that was gonna be. I think maybe we should ask the ELFA group. Well, maybe you have some pull there.
Yeah.
So golf, you're still not going to pull me from golf, so I apologize for that. But it's tennis, pickleball.
Don't be surprised.
Let's go. And then my last question I have for you: at the end of the day, why do business with Stryker Flex Financial?
Yeah, so I mean, Stryker Flex Financial, it's we look to be an alternative to conventional sources. So when we think we know our customers the best, we're closest to what their day-to-day challenges are in the operating room and running their hospitals. And so we try to create programs that make it easier for our customers meet not just their clinical goals, but also their financial goals. We think kind of pairing those two things together is a powerful differentiator in the marketplace. So, it's served us well, like we continue to grow. But for us, it's just about being close to our customer and really understanding healthcare and trying to make healthcare better in this country. So.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time today, James. What do we got here? Another 6 weeks till Marco Island.
Yeah.
And by the time this airs, we'll probably be 4 weeks to Marco Island, so we'll be that step closer.
That's right.
Now we're
great. I can't wait.
We're in Florida. Where are you building?
So Venice, Florida, just south of Sarasota. So when we come back around to Marco Island in 2025, I should be able to just drive on down to the facility. That's the plan. So
that's the plan. Well, plus you have the executive roundtable. I think that's further east, but
yeah.
My ignorance on the state of Florida, where I'm like, come on, you can't make that drive from Miami up to Amelia Island. They're like, why would we do that? I'm like, I don't know.
Right. Yeah. It's a long drive.
All right, sir. Well, I appreciate your time today, and look forward to seeing you here at upcoming ELFA event.
Looking forward to it, Jesse. Thank you.
Thanks, James.
Yep. Bye.